Welcome everyone to another episode of Maven Money Talks. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a very special guest who's an absolute powerhouse when it comes to helping entrepreneurs break through their limits and unlock their full potential. Joining us is Chris King, the founder of Chris King Coaching. Chris is a mindset coach and peak performance expert with a remarkable ability to empower high achievers to navigate uncertainty, optimize their performance, and embrace their authentic leadership. Chris has worked with countless entrepreneurs, guiding them through transformative journeys to operate at their highest capacity, both personally and professionally. His approach is all about embracing change, achieving flow, and letting go of what holds us back so we can truly thrive. Chris, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course,
good to be here.
Of course.
Well, that sounded really good.
You liked it?
That was good.
Okay, well, I can do a few things here and there that are pretty good. Pretty good.
Right. Maybe sound better than I do.
Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. I know you've got a lot going on, and you've got your own podcast, which, can you tell us a little bit about your own podcast and kind of what you guys talk about?
Yeah, the podcast is interesting. So the title I can't take credit for or maybe blame for. It's called Mind. Yeah. My marketing guy, he called me because we changed the format. And instead of me just doing performance coaching stuff or whatever, we just decided we're going to start doing like coaching sessions with anybody who really wants to, share their dirty secrets in front of God and everybody and just get untangled.
Yeah.
And so he called me up after he heard the first one. He was like, "You're like getting in there dry." Like, he's like, "You're like you have to call it Mind." And I fought him for a month on it, and then I just stopped fighting. I'm like, "Fine, do whatever you want. You're the marketing guy." So it's called Mind. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify.
Awesome.
And really, instead of engaging me in like a 6-month kind of thing, it's like you might disentangle this in about 15 minutes. I mean, so far my record's about 8.
Okay.
So
nice.
Right?
That's pretty awesome. Well, I've listened to a couple of them, so I've enjoyed it. And
thank you.
So it's great to have. So obviously, our focus, we work with a lot of businesses, a lot of business owners. And so we want to help provide some value in terms of, a lot of times people feel like the business is running them, and how do they try and take some of their time back, control their life a little bit more as opposed to the business controlling them. So what kind of advice or things do you look at, try and understand better to help navigate that?
Yeah, there's a lot. So, we bring a science-backed approach. And so, the whole company was founded in the roots of positive psychology, neurochemistry, and energy fields, really. And so when we're looking at, especially money itself, money is just another manifestation of energy. And so, and I'm not much for productivity or efficiency. We hear a lot of that kind of stuff. It's just really rhetoric at this point in my field.
Got it.
So I'm looking through the lens of leverage. It's an input to output ratio, right? How do I get a whole lot more using a whole lot less? And the first thing, there's two things. The two quickest, I think, answers to your question are, number one, if your business is running you and instead of you running your business, then you got to stop working so many hours. I'll take an executive working 50, 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. I'll cut that person down to about 32, 34 hours a week, and they will end up getting 3 to 5 times more done.
Okay.
This is really counterintuitive. Most people are on the hamster wheel. Work more hours, get more done.
Right.
After about 40 hours a week, for every 3 hours you work, you're only getting about 1 hour of work product.
Okay.
It's just it's because of your physiology, your human system.
Right.
So understanding that, start working fewer hours, and now you're going to have more time. Now, in order to pull that off, you're going to need good boundaries.
Right.
You're going to be able to say, you got to say no when it's no. You got to be able to get out of the distractions. You got to make sure that you're not putting attention and energy on things that don't move the needle.
Got it. Yep. So you got to have your priorities and your goals set. But I think the big component to it that you mentioned is those boundaries, and really establishing strong boundaries to know, like, hey, because I know when I started way back when, you're saying yes to every single thing that just to be out there. And at some point, that's kind of how you get started. You got to be out there and say yes to a lot of things. And but at some point there ends up being that imbalance where it's like, okay, I need to be focused on these things that give me kind of maximum output.
Yeah.
I like the word leverage because obviously in investments and in real estate, there's a lot of leverage, and that's how you do things. And I recently read this book, 10x is better than 2x.
10x is easier than 2x.
Or 10x is easier than 2x.
Dan Sullivan book. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. And it gets you thinking in a totally different way, because anybody can 2x their output productivity pretty easily, or their results. 10x, you've got to think differently. You've got to have a different focus. So, and leverage is obviously a big component to that.
Yeah. Where are the force multipliers? When I go in and work with a team, the first place I'm going to look for leverage is in meetings. I'm going to say, show me every recurring monthly meeting that you have.
Okay.
Right. And I'm going to go through and go, what is the purpose of this? Why does it exist? Why is it an hour? Because they all tend to be an hour. Why is this an hour? Why is this an hour? Why is this an hour? One of the organizations that I've trained and collaborated with, Stephen Kotler's organization, the Flow Research Collective, they have a corporate policy: no meeting is more than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
And it's just it's a game changer. Right. Most of those monthly meetings that are an hour can be cut down to about 30 minutes.
Yeah. So you mentioned something earlier on too, that it was science and mind-based, and I think positive like attitude or positive mindset. And I feel like that's something that is often overlooked or under considered in terms of just where your mindset is at. Can you talk a little bit more about how that impacts, just overall productivity and output? And I think it impacts a lot more than just that.
Yeah.
But can you talk to how important mindset is? Because again, I think a lot of entrepreneurs get into business, maybe just to start a business, or they're really good in one space, they go out there, but they don't think about how powerful the mind is and how that can help you accelerate growth, but it can also hold you back in certain circumstances. So can you talk about mindset a little bit?
Yeah, I think most entrepreneurs start out with a really good mindset, and then as the mechanisms become established and the systems get in there, then they start to get a little contracted. There are a lot of rabbit holes I could go down here. I would say that basic neuroscience here, right?
Okay.
Humans are going to create, validate, and recreate the reality of their understanding.
Okay.
That's just how humans work. So if you believe something to be a certain way, you're probably going to produce that reality. And and there's a great quote, and I wish I could remember who said it now. Usually I'm better at this, but it's if you advocate for your limitations, you get to keep them.
Okay.
And so the first thing is to make sure that the way that you're thinking about something is aligned with the outcome that you're looking for.
Got it.
And that's very rarely going to be under the umbrella of contraction, constriction, confinement, all the things, we can't do this and we can't do that.
Right.
It's pretty, because of the way that affects your brain just physiologically. So if it's like, well, what can we do? Where can we go? How can we get there?
Right.
That changes physiologically how the brain's working.
Yep. I feel like mindset has made a big impact, just because I know when I was setting goals for myself, 2-3 years ago, I would be able to hit those goals, and then I just keep increasing the goals. I'm like, am I setting my goals too low? Because, I was hitting them, but they were still, a stretch for me to get to. And so then I've started just setting these much larger goals, but I'm still continuing to hit them. And it's part of it, I think, has been just the confidence that I'm able to get done what needs to get done. And I feel like I've gotten more productive in that sense. But also just knowing like, hey, I know how to achieve what I'm looking to, and I can set out, the right kind of game plan to get there, and then execute on it. I think obviously execution is like one of the biggest pieces of it.
Right. So there's a really good book out there. Carol Dweck wrote. It's sort of like Start Here sort of thing. It's a book called Mindset. Okay. Carol Dweck wrote it. She's up at Stanford with Dr. Andrew Huberman. It's a great place to start. In some of your website and your coaching, you emphasize letting go. So what is essential for business owners to realize, or to release some control to gain more freedom? That's a highly specialized answer depending on who the business owner is, right? I would say that generally, when we're dealing with peak performance teams, or if I'm working with an individual, it's not so much what I have to do or what I have to build up, it's what I have to strip away. Okay. There's the story of Michelangelo creating the statue of David, right? And this is a great example. He said when he was done, they said, how did you create David out of this big chunk of stone? And he said, I didn't create David. David was already in there. I just had to remove the stuff that wasn't him.
Right.
And so that's a lot what we do as organizations is let's get rid of all doesn't move the needle. You know, what are the things that are not contributing to this? Because, you know, speed, I'll analogize this to like a race car or something. You know, sure, we think of speed, we think of horsepower, but speed's also a function of weight and friction. And so you don't have to add any horsepower if you can get rid of weight and friction.
That's great.
Like,
yeah.
Motorcycles. I mean, like this thing here, I'm 140 pounds soaking wet, 5'6". I was born to race motorcycles, because it's all weight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
No, that's good. Well, it goes back to, I think, your original thing talking about people working less hours. And ultimately, that's just stripping away, again, the stuff that's holding them back more than producing results, right? Yeah. So obviously you mentioned meetings, but are there a few other key things that you typically see people that get stripped away from their schedule that helps kind of move the needle forward in their progress?
Yeah, you know, it's the things you don't want to let go of, which are typically things that bring a lot of pleasure.
Okay.
You know, like cocaine, for example. I mean that I say that really flippantly, but I actually mean that in a clinical sense.
Yeah. Okay.
People generally, they do a lot of pleasure seeking. They don't so much, they're not seeking happiness, they're seeking pleasure. They don't really know the difference, right? So this is like the doom scrolling on social media. This is the reactive behavior with our phones. We're checking our phones every 3 or 4 minutes or something. And so that does give us that dopamine hit, which is like cocaine.
Yep.
So it's weaning ourselves off of those things, and that can be really difficult.
Yeah.
And that can show up in any number of ways in somebody's life.
Right. I've started just setting my phone like in a drawer on the desk because you just get on there, you hit, social media for a second, then all of a sudden 3-4 minutes have gone by and like
20,
what am I doing? What am I doing? So
I mean, there's hacks for that. Look, I'm all about tools, right?
Yeah.
So like one of the things is you get into your social media, when you're done doom scrolling, log out.
Ah, that's a good idea.
Just log out because the next time you hit that app, before you even notice it, that login screen comes up and you're like, oh. And that's the moment you realize that you're actually doing it.
Yeah.
And now it's a conscious choice. If you log in, you're making a conscious choice.
Right. That's really good. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's that simple.
So simple, right?
I had a client I did that for. She had a HR consulting company, and we took her from a 6-figure business to a 7-figure business. And one of the things she said, number one, I had no idea how much I was hitting that app until she started logging out.
Yeah.
And she says, I think she got just an hour back a day doing that.
Okay.
And here's the other thing, again, force multiplier, right?
Okay.
Leverage. Because the brain, like we say, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yep.
Because the brain creates patterns and templates across your world. So if you're doing reactive behavior here, you're doing it elsewhere.
Right.
So if I fix it here, I fix it everywhere where that cascade effect is happening. And so there's like a compound interest effect that happens.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. It's like getting your day started the right way, right? Like going out, getting a workout, and then everything else just flows.
Right. If you own your morning, you'll own your day.
Yeah.
If your email owns your morning, your email will own your day. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
Like I tend to be a conceptual thinker. Right. You might be a strategic thinker, or a creative thinker, or a critical thinker, or a conceptual thinker, and so I tend to be a conceptual thinker, which means I don't really care about the details or the story.
Right.
I actually interrupt my clients a lot. I sort of tell them before we even get started, as they're a potential client, I'm like, look, I'm going to interrupt you a lot because I don't want to hear your story.
Right.
Because I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I know that sounds terribly insensitive, but I can move a lot faster, and because it's the concepts behind what's going on.
Got it.
And so that's why I tend to think and speak in analogies.
Got it.
That's where that comes from.
Well, and you mentioned there's an analogy.
Yeah, because we do get hired quite a bit for owners or C-suite will present it as efficiency, productivity, those kinds of things. Ultimately, it's some form of business performance. And I say, okay, look, your business is kind of like heavier than aircraft, okay? And in order for heavier than aircraft to fly, you have to balance 4 forces. They're lift, thrust, weight, and drag, okay? And the math is pretty simple, is that lift and thrust need to overcome weight plus drag.
Right.
So that's how you get flight. So on an aircraft, the lift is provided by the wings, that's the thing picking it up. Thrust is provided by the engines, that's what's pushing it forward. Weight is everything the aircraft is carrying, plus the aircraft itself. And drag is anything that slows it down.
Okay.
So if that's, as soon as the plane gets off the ground, the wheels get tucked up into the belly of the aircraft because it lowers the drag. modern aircraft fly, 36, 40,000 feet because the air is thinner, less resistance, so it slips through a lot easier, less drag. Everything in your business, everything in your life is one of or a combination of those four forces.
Okay.
Right? You have like your sales goals or something. That's your thrust. That's pushing you forward. You've got your passion projects, your hobbies, your recreational activities. That's your lift, right? You've got everything that you've decided to take with you on your journey, right? Maybe it's your office lease or your house payment, your car payment, things like that. Anything that slows you down is drag. And I've identified four main types of drag.
Okay.
You got physical drag.
Okay.
Right? So you've got clutter or whatever.
Right.
You've got mental drag.
Okay.
Emotional drag. And then my favorite, virtual drag.
Okay.
Right? There's those emails and everything.
Uh-huh.
And I say, if you're not quite sure if something is drag, I say drag has a sound. It's when you look at your phone and you got a text message from that person and you go, oh, that's the sound of drag. So as you look at your day, what do you have planned? Start making little notes like this is lift, this is thrust, like kids are like all the above, like at any given moment, like they just want from one.
It depends on what mood
they're everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I got lift, I got thrust, drag, weight, drag. If you have a day full of drag, you're gonna have
right.
And so how do we reduce the drag?
Yeah, I love that. I like how you put an actual sound to drag too, because people can figure that out pretty quickly.
Right?
So
easy. Because your eyes are, right?
Yeah. So I was looking at your website in a few areas, and you've mentioned this before too, is, flow and being in a flow state. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, how you get there?
Yeah, so flow is what athletes call being in the zone, or runner's high. Basketball players call it going unconscious. But it's essentially it's an optimum state of consciousness where you feel your best, you perform your best, you're not stressed out, and it is trainable and available to anybody because it's a function of neurochemistry.
Okay. So
peak performance is really just getting your psychology, your physiology, and your energy all working for you instead of against you.
Got it.
And so if you set the conditions and the behaviors in an organization or across a team or in your life, you can produce what we call flow states. We can get you into the zone.
Got it.
And when you do that, you're exponentially quicker. You are way more creative. You're just not stressed out at all. Things seem to flow through you, just happening almost by themselves.
Right.
This is that time you were in college or working on something at work, and you put your head down, you started working on it, and it felt like 20, 30 minutes went by. You looked up, it was like 3 hours, and you're like, oh my God, had this amazing thing in front of you, right? That's a flow state, right?
Awesome.
So you can, but it's available to anybody. They've studied this across the world. It has its roots in positive psychology, and that's where this all comes from. So
how do you help professionals work towards that, and are there key tools or kind of methods that you work with?
Yeah, there are 22 flow triggers that we know of right now. Triggers, switches, but these are the things that need to be present in a team or in somebody's life in order to produce this. And the more of these triggers you have, the easier it is to get into flow. So one of them is like autonomy. Right? People need to steer their own ships and feel like they can do that really well. So if you have a department head that's a total micromanager, that team is going to drag ass because they're just never going to get into flow because there's no autonomy there.
Makes sense.
You need a little bit of risk. Right? So the challenge that somebody is working on needs to be a little bit of a stretch above their perceived skill set. So it keeps them, because what happens is that it's with a little bit of risk involved, it triggers the norepinephrine, which is a focusing mechanism. So that kind of lowers the cognitive load on your brain. So you're only focused on that thing. You need complete concentration. So we got to deal with the distractions and everything. You need kind of a full embodiment to be really present with what you're doing. And so with 22 of these triggers, the more of them that you can get in your world and you can set the conditions for it, well, the easier you can get into flow. So what about for recommendations of, there's times where I feel like, I'm in flow, everything's going well, your days are just going great. And then something comes up and you kind of get out of that state and you're just, you're in, whether it's bad news or something negative happens within your day. And something that I've personally just tried to work on is, how do you shift and get back as quickly as possible? Is that something that you've worked on with people, or trying to just get back into that state if you've drifted away from it for a day or two or whatever the case is? I'm going to sound a little like a lawyer here. It depends. Yeah. Okay. It sort of depends on what knocks somebody out of flow and how and when it happens. There's a lot of times people will, depending on how long they've been into flow, I would say don't try and get back in, let it go.
Okay.
Because if I'm working on something and I'm just crushing it and I'm going through it and an hour or two goes by and I start to notice that I'm crushing it and I start to notice how good it feels, there's no I in a flow state. Right? There's just that sense of oneness for the thing. That kind of the ego goes into the background, right? So if all of a sudden the I comes back, I feel good. Like I notice that this is feeling good. It's starting to slip away already.
Got it. Okay.
And so to force yourself back into there, what ends up happening because this is a function of neurochemistry is you're going to ride that wave all the way to the end. You're going to burn out all your feel-good neurochemistry. Now it actually takes longer to build back up the chemistry to get yourself primed for a flow state again. So what I advise most people is that if you notice it slipping, just let it go. Okay. Like let it go because it'll be easier to come back to.
Got it. That makes sense. It's kind of like when you go out and surf. Do you surf?
Surfing is filled with flow trainers. Right? No, born and raised on the west side of LA and never surfed, played ice hockey instead.
Well, there you go. That works. I'm from Kansas, so we didn't get to surf out there anyways.
Right.
So
a lot of skiing out there though.
We really do. I have a shirt that has Ski Kansas on it, and it's got a cow that you're holding on to the cow tail, and the cow's just walking across the flat land. But we did have one hill. It's called Snow Creek. And it took a whole 10-15 seconds to snowboard down. That's where I learned how to snowboard. Gotta start somewhere.
Right? Use what you got, man.
Yeah. So earlier on, you mentioned reducing drag, and obviously one part is just in the business aspect, right? Like what you can do within the business. But a lot of entrepreneurs have and are dealing with challenges both on the business side and personal side, and everything comes together. And a lot of times you can end up sacrificing some of the personal stuff to achieve some of your business goals. How do you kind of coach business owners through to making sure they're staying balanced and keeping, I guess, things in harmony?
That's a tough one because it's not my job to tell somebody how to run their lives or their business for that matter. Like people tell me all the time, say, Chris, you give such great advice. I say, give me one piece of advice I gave you. And then they can't because I'm not in the advice business. I mean, our organization straddles the line between coaching and consulting, right? And what we say is that the consultants have answers, coaches have questions.
Got it.
So, because coaching is all about eliciting insight.
Okay.
But ultimately, I'm not going to give somebody very much advice. I mean, I'll do like the flow training and stuff. It's like, here's how to do it. Here's the recipe. I can do that, right? But it's like, well, what do I do to balance my life? Like, well, how do you define that?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, somebody wants to work, 90% of their life and 10% at home, and that's what works for them.
Right.
Not my job to tell you you're wrong.
That's their balance.
Right. Right. So it's what I call a function of alignment.
Okay.
I said like there's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong here. There's simply aligned or misaligned with the experience you want, with the outcomes you want to produce.
Got it.
And so my job is to facilitate the alignment.
Love it.
The way I've analogized it, I mean, I've done it a couple ways. I say, look, I'm just a systems hacker, right? Everything's a system, a business, a team, a person. They're just systems.
Right.
So, and any system can be hacked if you understand how the system works.
Yep.
And the other way I've looked at it is like, well, especially on the B2C side, is that this is more like it's like somebody's life is like this piece of sheet music that's never been played in human history, and that person is the perfect instrument to play that music.
Right.
My job is to tune that instrument.
Got it. No, I love that analogy, and I've always heard you say, you're a brain hacker. So So how did you kind of get started in all of this, and how did you learn how to hack brains so easily? Because it seems like it comes so naturally to you.
Be your first client, I would say.
Okay.
I grew up in a very privileged neighborhood in a very scary household.
Okay.
My oldest sister died when she was 11, and so I grew up with my parents dealing with grief and rage and abuse and addiction and all these things, and so those are kind of the pillars of my my formative years.
Right.
you fast forward and it's like, okay, well, I never got through college, and I just went from career to career and bounced around, and 2 failed marriages, and dealt with addiction, and maybe got in a little trouble. I managed to stay out of jail, but it's like, I mean, the short answer to your question is that, there aren't many ways that you can screw up that I haven't at least played in that sandbox a little bit.
Right?
And
funny.
So it's a function of, I had to decode and recode this thing,
Got it.
right? And
Got
having
it.
to hack my own system and recode it to a different eventuality. Well, it's a lot easier to do it for somebody else than for myself, right? And so this is, the cobbler's kids that have no shoes. It's the therapist's life who's a disaster, right? It's so if I can do it here, I can do it pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's how it got started for me. And then I just, I built an organization because I think some of my mental framework is just, there's certain things about me that like, I don't like being told no. I don't like being told what can't be done. That just strengthens my resolve to do it. I tell this story, but when I was 21 years old, I decided that I wanted to be an NCAA ice hockey player.
Okay.
And the 2 things that were standing in my way is that, number 1, I was failing out of my junior college, and number 2, I had never skated before. But fast forward 18 months, I was leading that team in the state championships, right? So it's like, I started to learn that you can pretty much do anything, and then I learned that there's actually a science to it.
Right.
So it's like, well, now there's a science to it. This is scalable. Like, anybody can do this. So that's how it all got started. I'm just too stubborn, I guess, to not do it.
Well, and you've built like an impressive team. I was looking at the website. You've got a lot of people out there, and you've got a number of coaches that are available. So what did that look like in terms of just growing your own company, and how have you been able to help others in achieving something similar?
Yeah, that was kind of an accident.
Okay.
I didn't really, at first I thought I was going to assemble like this like ninja team that goes into this organization and does this, but that didn't happen. I started getting phone calls for certain things that I just didn't do, and I didn't want to do.
Okay.
But the first one was I was getting a lot of phone calls from parents in their 40s that had their 22-year-old, 25-year-old on the payroll, not really going anywhere. So the failure to launch 20-somethings, and I'm like, that's not really what I do. I mean, I guess I could. I mean, it's because systems hacking is systems hacking.
Right.
But it was not something that I was. But I knew a guy.
Okay.
And I'm like, so after sending him a few people, I was like, do you just want to come work for me maybe? And so I just built a service line out of it.
Awesome.
And so that's how that got started. I'm like, well, what else do I not do, right? And so I started finding people that do what I don't do. And that's how it got started.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, that's cool.
Just stumbling upward.
Nice. Hey, it works, right?
I didn't plan this.
Whatever.
I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. None of us do. We think we do, and then we learn out through actually living it. So yeah. No, that's awesome. Look, I've had an awesome time going through things with you. All of this has been awesome. I think everything that you've mentioned is, applicable to every single person. It's not just executives. It's not just, entrepreneurs. It's to every person that's dealing with any type of challenge or trying to set goals or, make progress in whatever way possible. But to kind of wrap things up in offering, like, thinking of one key piece of advice for entrepreneurs who are maybe feeling stuck or they're hitting a plateau within their business, what would you advise them in terms of how to get unstuck?
It depends on what they're stuck on, because chances are whatever they're stuck on, whatever they're toiling over isn't the problem. It's the result.
Okay.
Right. What I tell, this is one of the things that makes us so quick. My organization, we're not just fast, we're quick. Because anybody can be fast over time. You can build up speed.
Right.
We're fast from the jump.
Got it.
And one of the things is we understand that whatever they're bringing to us probably isn't the problem. It's the result of the problem.
Okay.
So if it's in employee retention problems, that's not your problem. That's the result.
Got it.
Right. So it's getting underneath that, like look deeper, I think is the first thing. And because there's, and it's true on the other end too. Like, the goal isn't the goal. That's the result.
Right.
Of what is that the result? That's the goal.
Got it.
So So there's a deeper, bigger thing, and whatever they're stuck on, or whatever they're going for, there's way more than they think there is.
Got it.
And that's what it is. If you're really stuck, just think bigger.
Well, and I think one of the big components to it is, as an outsider looking in, when you're looking in at anything, you have a different lens on. And so it's hard to be in it every day and to be able to see the big picture sometimes as a business owner, right? When you're looking at it, as opposed to having someone like you come in who, again, can quickly get in there, get under the hood and dig deeper, maybe to a place that's even uncomfortable in certain situations, I'm sure, but will lead to massive results, right?
Yeah.
And
honestly, some of these hacks are shockingly simple.
Okay.
And again, I'm all about tools. And so if most of the time, if somebody's stuck, actually stuck is a good one, because I tell people, stop thinking about it. Walk away. Go pet the dog. Like, you're not going to figure this out by trying to figure it out. You'll figure this out when you're not trying to figure it out. Again, this is all getting your human system to work for you instead of against you. You know, you ever had that aha moment in the shower?
Yeah, always.
Right. You can create that. You can create that moment by stop toiling about it, because you're thinking about the problem.
Right.
You're trying to figure out the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, so what happens in a situation like that is that as you go do something else, whatever it is, play the piano, walk the dog, I don't care, whatever, have some sex, whatever. That's a good one.
Those ones, yeah.
It's a good one. Embodied experience, present, flow state. All right. But what happens is your conscious mind kicks the problem over into your unconscious mind.
Okay.
Unconscious processing is exponentially faster than conscious processing.
Okay.
So you kick it over into your unconscious mind, you go play with the dog and whatever you're doing, and what happens is that this is a function of your brain waves, right? When you're trying to figure out the problem, you're in high brainwave, big gamma thinking kind of thing. Yeah. When you go play with the dog, it settles into like theta, alpha, like down lower. And that's actually where the creative stuff happens.
Got it.
And so you got unconscious processing, you got the creative centers of your brain activated, and then you have that aha moment. That's the unconscious mind kicking the solution back over into the conscious mind because it figured it out.
Got it.
You can literally solve problems in your sleep.
Yep.
I mean, I have clients do that all the time. I say, here's another one. I'll give you another one because I like tools.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you're stuck on at night as you're going to bed, say, bring me the answer to this problem.
Right.
And then just let it go. And then in the morning, like as soon as you recognize that you're starting to wake up, before your brain really wakes up, just goes, what's the answer? And then listen. It's not a thinking thing. It's a listening exercise. Okay. So you ask the question, hey, what's the answer to that thing?
It'll be there. Yeah.
It drops in so many times.
Awesome.
I get clients call me early in the morning, like 6 o'clock. I'm sorry to call you early. I'm like, I've been up for 2 hours. What? Like,
you're the fifth client to call me.
Right. Yeah.
That's great. All right. One final question, truly, because you've already given us some really great books to reference, and I am a huge fan of books, and I get my hand on any recommendations that are given. What book has been made the biggest impact on you personally or for your business?
You know, I think it really started. The business pivoted when I read Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheal. Okay. And that kind of got me hooked on Stephen. He's kind of my spirit animal. I love that guy. I was actually fortunate enough to meet him a couple of times.
Oh, nice.
And I just sat and had drinks with him. And
awesome.
He's awesome. He's a great guy with an incredible story.
Yeah.
And he's written a bunch of books: Rise of Superman, Abundance, Bold, The Future's Faster Than You Think. I mean, so I'm a big Stephen Kotler guy, and that sort of really changed my business and made it much more viable in a way, because before it was just like me, a little coaching thing kind of, and this was like, oh, I have a thing here.
Yeah.
And so that's what shifted everything for me.
Awesome. We'll have to grab that book.
Right.
So, final thing, how do people get in contact with you? What's the best way to find you?
Easiest way to find, we go to statusflow.net. There's 2 websites actually. Okay. So there's statusflow.net, there's chrismking.com.
Okay.
So the Status Flow is kind of the B2B side, Chris M. King is the B2C side,
Got
and they're just wildly different things. So I decided these 2 kids can't live in the same room anymore. So I just split them up. I was like, whatever, I have a hard time running one company. I'll try and run 2.
Why not? Right? Why not? 10x is better than 2x.
Exactly.
So, well, thanks for coming out today. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed our time. And for all those that are watching and listening today, obviously check out Chris's website. Feel free and reach out to him. And thanks for listening today. We'll see you around.
Thanks, man.
Hey, appreciate it.
Let's go!